Welcome to the Sheckler Spotlight, where creativity meets purpose and conversation goes deeper. Join host Harrison Sheckler as he sits down with inspiring guests from all walks of life, artists, thinkers, musicians, and everyday heroes, to explore the stories that shape us, uplift us, and connect us. Now here's your host, Harrison Sheckler.
Hello and welcome to the Sheckler Spotlight. I'm your host, Harrison Sheckler, and today I'm honored to be joined by GMA Dove Award-nominated artist, songwriter, and worship leader, Sarah Kroger. Sarah has led worship around the world, inspired countless believers with her songs, and is passionate about creating safe, prayerful spaces where people can encounter the Lord. She's released multiple albums, including her recent album, A New Reality, and just launched a lyrical devotional book inspired by her song Belovedness, titled Belovedness, Overcoming Your Inner Critic, releasing May 6th. And I can't wait to hear more about her journey, her ministry, and all these exciting new projects. Sarah, the spotlight is now on you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm excited to talk with you today. I'd like to begin just by learning about your musical origins and how you got started on this path in music.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that we were just talking about how you're a music minister, because my parents were music ministers growing up. Yeah. My dad just retired a few years ago, so he was in it for 50 plus years.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane. Yeah. So both of them were, directors of choirs and doing music ministry from the time before I was born. So music was always a part of my life, a major part of my life. We were kind of voluntold to be in the children's choirs at church and at church all day long on Sundays, all day, either at mass or playing in my dad's office, while they were directing choirs. And so church and music have just always been a part of the fabric of my life. And I've always loved music. My parents told me when I was younger that I would get notes at home from school like, Sarah's doing great, but she's singing in class. Can you tell her to stop, please? It just oozed out of me. I just sang all the time. I just loved it so much. And but I was bullied in elementary school. And so at that point, I kind of just shut it down. It was one of those things where I was like, I want to be as hidden as possible to stop this. So I'm just going to not be outspoken at all. I'm not going to share anything at all, and just kind of like hid it in a closet and threw away the key and never looked back. And then it wasn't until I was a junior in high school, I went on a youth conference, a Stimula youth conference. Matt Maher was leading worship. And it was one of those weekends that just changes your life. It changed everything for me. It was really through the worship music. I'd never heard contemporary worship music before, and it kind of gave me this language to start having conversations with God, like real kind of person to person conversations. And he became a real person to me rather than just like checking a box off a list of like, oh, I'm going to go to church because it's what my parents told me to do or because it's what we've always done. Church became about a person, and it changed everything. And at the end of that week, actually, Tom Booth, I'm sure you know the name Tom Booth, some other people will know. He was speaking, and he was talking to the whole room, but it was one of those moments where it felt like the spotlight was on me. And he just said, if you have a gift from God and you're not using it, you're denying the glory of God within you. And it was one of those moments where it just like was clear as day that God was speaking to me. It was clear as day. And I felt like he was inviting me to unlock that closet again and re-examine the gift that he had given me and really see it as a gift. And that isn't just meant for me. It's meant for others as well, to experience the glory that God has put in me, the little piece of his glory that he's made for me to shine. And so I went back and started cantering at my church, absolutely terrified for the first probably a few years, honestly. I mean, just terrified. Every time I would step on the podium to cantor, I'd be like, shaking from head to toe, sweating from head to toe, probably sounding like a dying donkey. I mean, it was bad. It was bad for a long time, but it kept getting a little incrementally better every time I would do it, every time I would say yes. And it was just like, okay, I'm gonna say yes because I'm convicted, and I just hope and pray that this can get better. And it did, with courage and bravery, and with every step, it just, God's grace just met me there. And now I can't imagine doing anything else. I can't imagine if I had allowed fear to keep me from becoming who God intended to me to be, for me to be all along. And I believe that I was made to do music. I believe that I was made to lead worship and write songs about him. And it's like the most humbling, beautiful job ever. And it's been a wild ride. It's been far beyond anything that I could ever have planned for myself. I've seen the world, and I never would have anticipated that. And so it's been a beautiful ride. And I truly, like, looking back on my life, I can't imagine what would have happened if I didn't say yes, So I'm really grateful for the ways that he's met me along the way.
Oh, I love that. I think, especially with musicians, you either have to be completely all in. I mean, you can
Yeah.
have kind of like your side interest as a musician. There's people who dabble in it and then they have, their day job, but to, it's either at least with my students, I say, if you're going to go into music, you have to really love this, because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of glamour. I mean, you get attention when
No.
you perform and whatnot, but there's not a lot of, one, they say starving musician for a reason, but you have to love what you do.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that passion for it, it's probably best to find another avenue. But it sounds like God
So true.
called you, and this is what you were meant to do with your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're so right.
were there certain people, I mean, you said your parents directed music. Who were
Yeah.
your teachers growing up?
Mm. That's a great question. My parents definitely set the stage, I would say, for it, set the foundation for it. I remember starting taking piano lessons when I was 5 years old. So they were
Early.
like, yeah, early, early. And all of us, all three kids, were in piano lessons from that age on. And then my mom put me in voice lessons when I was young, even though I hated it. I refused to sing in front of anybody again because of the bullying thing. But I did it because I loved singing still secretly, and so Mr. Cabasco was my voice teacher, and he really taught me like the foundations of voice and how to
Mm-hmm.
warm up my voice, and um, all of the, like, starting to sing classically, or like how to control it. And so I took a lot of voice lessons, like in middle school through high school, really. And then I went to college, and I was just like, I love this so much. Music is oozing out of me. I can't imagine doing anything else. So I studied music. I studied vocal performance in college. And I had several voice teachers there and learned a lot from them. And I graduated with a vocal performance degree, and I
Okay.
still feel like I use it to this day. I mean, I definitely use it, all those tools that they've taught me. And even now, to this day, I still have a vocal coach that I meet with from time to time, because singing classically is very different from singing into a microphone on stage with in-ears. It's very different. It's a different approach that you have to take, and even like the mix that you have in your ears and how
Mm-hmm.
much you push it. And so, I mean, there's a lot of, like, kind of nerdy music stuff to talk about there. But yeah, it's still, to this day, I'm in piano lessons, I'm in voice lessons, I'm still a student, very much a student, and totally okay with that. Like, there's so much to learn, and it really is like being an athlete. I feel like sometimes
That's
being
a
a
good point.
musician,
Mm-hmm.
being a professional musician especially, it's a very athletic kind of thing and requires a lot of your attention. And so I'm really, really grateful for all the teachers that have been a part of it along the way. And every stage I've learned something new, and all of that kind of, I feel like I pull from all of that from my childhood, vocal teacher, Mr. Cabasco, all the way through college and now. So yeah, definitely couldn't have done it without those teachers, honestly. No one's ever asked me that question before, though.
So you're classically trained, but
Yeah.
how did you get into praise and worship. I mean,
Yeah.
specifically praise and worship. I mean, you could sing the hymns, the traditional hymns at Catholic Mass, but
Yeah.
what brought you into that direction?
I mean, I think it was that youth conference that I went to. I think it was experiencing people like Matt Maher, Audrey Assad back in the day, even Tom Booth, like these worship leaders who were just Kelly Pease. I don't know if you know that name. There were a lot of just really passionate, prayerful worship leaders, and I was just so drawn to them. It was like a moth to a flame. I was just like, I want to do that. I don't know what it is that they're doing. I can't really explain it, but I know that I love it and that I feel something when they're leading worship and I wanted to be a part of that. And so I just started, yeah, leading it at my church. Specifically, we had like a contemporary mass that my mom
Oh,
was
okay.
in charge of for a long time, and that's kind of the outlet that I started learning those songs through. And for me, it just was always, how can I make this a prayer? How can I not make this about me? And how can I make this a prayer so that I kind of disappear, which is what like someone like Matt Maher showed me when he was leading worship. It wasn't about Matt Maher, even though he kind of has become this like legend in the Catholic Church, but it's never been about him. It's always been about the glory of God and what God is doing, in the room in that moment when he's leading worship. And the same is true for me. At least I try to make it that. I try to make it a prayer every time I'm doing it, and kind of like disappear as like make Sarah disappear as much as possible and allow God to just speak through a song or a moment or a lyric or a melody or whatever. So that was always, yeah, that was always like my goal. And it's such a privilege to do that. It's such a privilege to be in these spaces all over the world and encounter God with people. It's new every single time. It's never the same. God is always doing something new. And yeah, but it came through me being introduced to that contemporary worship when I was younger and just loving it, falling in love.
Well, and I think it's pretty cool that it came full circle because you were inspired by Matt Maher,
Mm.
and then you've gone on tours with Matt Maher now. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, just last year we launched a new tour called Cathedrals Tour. We're hoping to do more of them, but both of us, have always loved, obviously, cathedrals, and they're just such beautiful, magnificent spaces that we have in the Catholic Church. And it's not, I feel like there haven't been a lot of, in fact, I know that there haven't been like a lot of contemporary worship nights in those spaces necessarily. But we also wanted to do it in a way that honored those spaces. It wasn't like they were built for voices, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like they were built for the musicians to be the congregation, really, and sometimes, yeah, the organ, of course, because it's so magnificent in those spaces. But they weren't built for like a band, you know what I mean? They weren't built
Sure.
for like
Hmm.
drums and a full,
Well, the
crazy band
acoustics
set.
in some of these places are amazing.
Incredible,
Hmm.
incredible. And they really carry the voices of both the cantors and the people, the congregation. That's what it really is about. And so that was kind of the dream and the goal and the vision was to like, what if we gathered people in these spaces and just, yeah, just lifted up songs of worship together and had kind of a mix of contemporary songs, but also traditional hymns and made it just like a beautiful night of encounter. And so we started doing that tour last Advent. We're going to do another one this year, and hopefully we'll just do more of those because they're the space themselves. Like that's an experience in and of itself to enter that space and to just be in there is a prayer unto itself.
Mm.
It's wild how architecture can kind of feel like that, and it feels like the architecture is just as much a part of the night as like the band or the worship leader in those spaces. So it's really, yeah, it's a really humbling thing to be in those spaces and leading a night of prayer because it feels like this very all senses engaged kind of experience, immersive experience, if you will.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, what is the reception from the audience when they hear this praise and worship in more traditional settings,
Yeah.
especially with like the Catholic Church? As you know, there's people who are like, I like my music, the very traditional Latin mass, and then there's some who
Yeah.
oh, I want to, just be free and have this praise and worship style, or some are in the middle and they're like, we like our 70s guitar masses. There's so many different people. How does
There
your music
are,
kind of bridge that, and how do you kind of fit in, I guess, your own way of worshiping in these settings?
yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that I continually think about and wrestle through because there's a lot of streams in our church, right? Especially with
Mhm.
music and liturgy, and a lot of people have a lot of very strong opinions about it, and I totally get that.
My email
But
box is full.
I I love it all, honestly, like personally, just from my own experience and from my own preferences. Like if I go to a mass and it is all chant,
Mhm.
but if it's done really well and beautifully, I'm all for that. Like I love that. It's such a powerful experience. If it's done, if it's a contemporary mass and it's done really well, like basically my criteria is it done well, and is it
Mhm.
done in a way that is prayerful and that is leading people to encounter God. That's my stipulation. That's my litmus test, if you will, is I actually don't care if it's contemporary or traditional or a mix. That's my
Mhm.
favorite, actually, is to mix the two. I personally love doing that when I'm leading a liturgy or even adoration. I love having some old hymns and the traditional, Latin pieces, but also mixed in with contemporary worship. I think it's like that's the church, is all of it combined, and all the streams, and as opposed to like just being kind of siloed in our own little subcultures. Like, what if we could make it a beautiful expression of like where we are now, in 2025 as a church, and so that's what I always try to, that's the goal that I have when I'm leading liturgies, but also when I go to a liturgy. It's,
Mhm.
am I feeling led in prayer? It doesn't matter if it's traditional or contemporary to me. Am I led in prayer? Are they making it about the person or the person singing, or about the piece, or about this like moment that they want to stand out? You know what I mean? Like that, the liturgy is not a place for that, in my opinion. So yeah, that's like my litmus test with it, if you will. And it's kind of never led me astray, you
I
know?
think that's great. Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of weigh, is this a performance or is
Yeah.
this worship? And I think that's what really draws the line. And
Yeah.
if it's following the liturgy and the mass, and and I think God reads, He knows our hearts and our intentions with that.
Exactly.
And there's so many people from very different backgrounds. And when I'm programming music for mass, I try to put it all in. Like you said, I think it's,
Yeah.
if you can put this puzzle piece together where you have a hymn that starts off and it's more traditional, and then you might have a beautiful meditation, praise
Yep.
and worship song after communion. I just
Yeah.
love it because there's so many people that they worship differently. And
Yes.
I think we need to, at least my opinion, in our churches, we need to reflect our community
Yeah.
and those people. Because I mean, the hardest thing is just getting people into church, and if we can get them into church
Yeah.
and they feel they feel welcomed, but they're also expressing that reverence the way they know best, or at least can start. I think that's a good way as musicians that we can help kind of push them along.
I agree. I agree. I love that so much. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. In your songwriting approach, you just I think it was at this last fall you released a new reality. Is that correct?
May. Yeah.
Oh, in May.
May.
Okay, so then you had the
Yeah.
deluxe version come out. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. So
There's been
I
a
was.
lot. There's been a lot.
You're a busy person. I think it's awesome. So
It's
could
all good.
you give a little like rundown of a new reality? What brought this project on, and a little bit about the music included?
Yeah. A little rundown of a new reality. I love that question because no, because I'm in the midst of like starting the process all over again. Because as
How
an
are you?
artist, you like
It never
release an
ends.
album and then it's like, okay, now it's time to write for a new project. And what does that look like? I mean, because a new reality was the last like 3.5 years of my life, with songwriting, and then getting the tracks produced, and then listening to mixes, and then doing the promo and all the things. It takes so much of your time, and it's but it's a beautiful part of the process, right? So a new reality, It started because it started in COVID, actually,
Mm.
in 2020, when in the span of a day, our entire calendar for a year, my husband and I are full-time in ministry. So in the span of one day, when the NBA shut down, all of our events like wiped out in the span of one day for the following year, for obvious reasons.
Hmm.
And we found ourselves like, okay, what do we do now? We're not really writing songs like in person, like it wasn't happening. And literally, it was like I was on a sabbatical, an unplanned, not really
Hmm.
my choice sabbatical. And we started taking walks in my neighborhood and every day just to ground ourselves, like hour-long walks. And I was so moved by it. Actually, it actually started really grounding me and just being in nature again, like just finding myself in nature with no agenda, just being in nature and like reminding myself of the beauty and the providence of God, even through the seasons,
Mm.
like literally finding myself walking through the seasons and just recognizing like without them having to even think about it, the trees are just moving from season to season. They're being provided for. And I just felt like God's life was like coursing through everything around me. And if he's coursing through everything around me, then he's at work in my life. And it was just this very grounding reality and kind of like a reawakening to wonder, like childlike wonder and awe at the presence of God. And that's where it started. It was just this like recognition of that and writing from that place of wonder. And then about a year after that, I found myself for the first time experiencing the exact opposite of God's closeness. I felt like silence, complete silence, seemingly out of nowhere from God, and just feeling like I couldn't find his presence. I couldn't experience it. After a lifetime of finding him relatively easily, it was like, bam, all of a sudden that switched, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was so disorienting and terrifying and angering. And it was just very, very confusing, and felt myself like reflecting Psalm 22. My God, why have you abandoned me? Literally, like in the pits of despair for a long time. And in that season, like just the questions that started racing in my head about faith and what it looks like to be a Christian, and just all the things, big existential questions about life and who am I and who is God, and all of these things, just wrestling with them for the first time in the midst of this silence from God and him not giving me any answers and seemingly, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so found myself in this real desert, like, so going from wonder to a place of wondering, like kind of two sides of the same coin. And so I started writing songs from that place. And so A New Reality is a collection of both of those types of songs. It kind of feels like my version of the Psalms. And that's a place that I found myself going to a ton in this season is the Psalms, because David talks about the highs and lows of faith life and everything in between, and kind of showcases what it looks like to cry out to God in the pits of despair, but also to like trust him
Hmm.
and continue walking with him and finding him and seeking him and all of these things. And so A New Reality really is like my kind of collection of Psalms from that time. And I find myself now kind of on the other side of that desert, but I still don't know what faith looks like on the other side of the wrestling, right? Like I'm still putting the pieces back together of that. I can look back on those years now and recognize like that there's fruit in my life now that I wouldn't have gotten to if I didn't allow myself to walk through the desert, if God hadn't invited me into the desert, even though it was painful and hard and difficult. And so yeah, it's just faith is such a wild journey. I don't think a lot of people talk about the hard things as much as they talk about the good times,
Hmm.
and recognizing that it is a relationship, and sometimes you feel it and sometimes you really don't. And learning how to continue to fight for faith in the times when you really don't feel it, is a part of it, you know? So,
How would you, for people that are going through that same experience, what is your advice to them?
yeah. I mean, one of the things that really helped me was finding people who could just sit with me in it, who had gone before me too, who had
Mm,
gone through their own um, dark nights of the soul, for example. Like, I mean, and even like looking to the saints. I mean, we have saints. We have so many saints in our faith tradition that have walked through their own dark nights, whether it's John of the Cross or Mother Teresa. I mean, for like how many years did Mother Teresa wrestle with faith and wrestle in the darkness and didn't hear from God? I feel like we know now it was at least 40 years of her doing public ministry and yet behind the scenes wrestling so deeply and painfully. And so we have a rich like communion of saints to pull
hmm
from, and also scripture, Job and David and all of these people. But also for me, it was finding people who had walked through their own desert of sorts and just saying to me, just keep putting one step in front of the other. God is with you. And weren't like giving me platitudes, like weren't just saying like God never gives you more than you can handle, because sometimes he does. Sometimes he does, so that we can come to him and recognize like I
Exactly.
can't handle this actually by myself, and I don't think I was meant to, God, so meet me here, you know. Platitudes don't work
hmm
in that phase, and so for me it was really just people saying I hear you, I'm with you, just keep putting one step in front of the other, and he's with you in the dark just as much as he's with you in the light. I promise you, even though you can't feel it right now, he is, and there's a reason for this. And so I would just say if you're in that darkness right now, then maybe it's a good thing, because my faith is richer than I ever could have imagined right now. My connection with God is different than anything that I could have done myself. But I don't think it would have been this without that journey. So just keep putting one step in front of the other and find people who can be with you in it. Isolation is maybe the worst thing that
hmm
you can do in that. That's where the devil wants you, is to be isolated so that you just continue to spiral and lose hope. There is hope. And I hope that you can find someone that can wrestle with you through it.
I think that's an important message, and I think God gives us these trials and I guess you could say seasons of where we have
Yeah.
to humble ourselves and direct our focus towards Him, like you were saying. And it's being open to the signs. There's so many signs around us about God's
Mm,
glory and what He wants for our life, but I feel like we're always just so go go go, and just we have
mm,
our blinders on, and we're not saying, "Oh, God really wants me to." uh, have this friendship with so and so, or speak to
mm.
so and so, or just quiet everything around me and have this relationship with him, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so following the signs, being
Yeah.
there's a beautiful, um, there's just beautifulness in being silent too. I mean, as a
Mm.
musician, we're thinking we're listening to music all the time, but sometimes we just got to
Yeah.
shut it off. I
Oh
actually don't
yeah.
listen to a lot of music outside because I'm that's my job. I'm focused on it. It's my passion, but sometimes I just have to shut everything off
Yeah.
and just be with God in silence too. So
Yeah.
there's speaking of humbleness,
Yeah.
um, did humbled heart come through this, I guess, season that you went through?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. I keep saying this, and I've had a couple interviews around this song, and I'm like, do you want the real answer? Or do you want the perfected, pretty answer of what inspired Humbled Heart? I don't know what you want.
Well, I know in your No Filters podcast with your husband, you
Yeah.
had I recommend everyone go listen to your podcast because it's
Thank you.
I love how open the two of you are and
Thank
talking
you.
about your faith journey. But I was really interested in Humbled Heart. So if you could just give
Yeah.
a little glimpse into that, and then we'll direct everyone to go
Yeah.
watch that
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. At in the midst of this time when I was wrestling with my faith, there were all these stories coming out and even podcasts that you could listen to around like church scandals and abuse
hmm
scandals, and um, even in our own church, obviously we're not immune to that. And that's one of the things that I've had to wrestle through over the last couple of years, is this like unresolved anger at just the fact that church is such a it's such a beautiful, beautiful space, and it should be the safest place for everyone to go to. And just so angry that there's abuse that can happen in that space because people are vulnerable, and but also recognizing that like unchecked power, anyone with unchecked power is possible of doing terrible, awful things, including myself. And so for me, that was like the space that I was in, the headspace that I was in, and just recognizing like I want to write a worship song of like humbling myself, because that is the thing that's going to combat unchecked power for me in my life, is
Hmm.
humility, is continually submitting myself, my will, my way to the cross, to the feet of the cross, like laying my life down over and over and over again. It's like a daily thing. It has to be a daily thing for us in ministry, for anybody. It has to be a daily thing, in my opinion. Just recognizing, like we were saying earlier, like that's why I love being still in piano lessons and still in voice lessons, because I'm like, I don't know all that there is to know about music, and I never will. And I'm
Hmm.
okay with that. That's very humbling to me. And that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing for me to be a student and to recognize I don't have all the answers. And the same is true for faith. I don't have all the answers. And to even like echo what we were talking about earlier, sometimes the answer to the questions that you have is that God is a mystery, and we won't have all the answers this side of heaven. And to me, that's a very humbling thing. And so that really was the space and the heart behind that song, Humbled Heart, was like, I just want a song that brings me to the feet of the cross and to all that God has done for me. Because the response when you think about looking at the cross, at least for me, my response is I I need you, and I can't do this without you, and it's not about me. It's always been about what you've done for me and what you're doing in my life, and submitting myself to that, submitting my will to yours, because that is the safest place for us to be, is in his will and in his hands. And
Amen.
sometimes that looks like questions, sometimes that looks like wrestling, and sometimes it looks like beautiful sunny days and everything in between, and recognizing like that God ultimately knows what's best for us.
Hmm.
That's the thing for me.
That's great. That it's been something that I've been grappling with um, lately. Is so many questions because I grew up Catholic, and then you go through the motions of everything, and I want to learn more about my faith and why
Yeah.
I believe what I believe.
Yep.
Um, and like you said, there's so many, I guess, people who aren't living their faith, but they're in positions um, of leadership,
Yeah.
and it's confusing. And I think there's a lot of people who have had those same questions, like the two of
Yeah.
us, of why are these things happening? Why are these people doing these just honestly horrible things, and they're supposed
Yeah.
to be the people that we look towards. um,
Yeah.
what I've come to personally, and I'm still growing in this, is I think truth is unwavering. I think of it like a tree trunk. So we have our roots in Jesus and in God, and I guess you could, in the Catholic sense, the origin of the Catholic Church was Jesus. He started the
Yeah.
church,
Yep.
and we have that trunk that is unwavering, strong, and straight. And then you have all different faiths and beliefs, and even within the
Yeah.
Catholic Church, people who are going away from that trunk of truth and
Yeah.
having their own. It's connected, but it's a little bit distant. It's on a far
Mm.
out limb. And
Mm.
I think realizing that the truth is this trunk, this straight line that's unwavering, we have to keep coming back to that those roots, the center. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've, you know, through research, um, and just over time, and spending time with scripture and God, is realizing that truth is always truth, but we have to kind of push away all of these distractions. And there's a lot of it,
Yeah.
even in our own Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a beautiful image, honestly. That's a really beautiful image. And yeah, just like recognizing that we're all easily distractible, and whether it's from our life or especially nowadays, like wanting influence, like wanting
Mm,
wanting to be known on social media or whatever, even that is a massive distraction and can totally lead you down a path that is like not of God. You know what I mean? Like, um, so because the things that are popular aren't always of God, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus, I wonder about that sometimes, like how popular Jesus would have been today because he made people so uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Well, I've asked
Back in the
myself, what
day.
would I say if I, met Jesus? I'd be like, this guy's a little out there for me. I mean, honestly,
I know.
I mean, you
I
just think
know.
about all these people who, yeah, I mean, he'd seem like this crazy hippie or something. I probably.
Yeah. And but that's a good challenge, I think, sometimes to think about that. Like the fact that he went after the people who were the outcasts of society and the people who were judged and kind of like seen as horrible sinners and irredeemable. And it's like he went after them and stood by them and stood up to them, up for them, and sought to heal them and didn't leave them there, right? It wasn't like he stood by the woman caught in adultery and was just like,
Mm.
yeah, keep doing what you're doing, like met them to heal them, to bring healing and his love and his light into their lives. And like that is a challenge to me. That to me is the tension of like influence and wanting to be known and seen and liked. Like that's not the goal of the Christian life necessarily. You know what I mean? Like it should be to conform our lives and who we are to look more like Jesus. And I don't know how I started talking about that, but just like that to me is connecting yourself back to the truth, that
Hmm.
like center truth trunk, as opposed to like getting distracted by, oh, this branch looks lovely, let me go over here and like see how I can gain more influence here or whatever. I don't know if that is making sense, but
No, it
yeah,
does.
continually reminding, like honestly pruning your life, like
Pruning your life. I like that.
continually putting yourself back in at the cross and recognizing the things that are not leading you to reflect who Christ is, and continually allowing yourself to be pruned. Yeah. To get back to the trunk.
So with balancing, as a musician and you want to make a living, you have to promote yourself and you have
Uh,
social. I know exactly. That's how my feeling on it is too.
yeah.
How do you balance that? I mean, of course,
Yeah.
you probably have a team, that helps you out promoting and everything, but how do you stay balanced with social media and I guess
Yeah.
these distractions in a way?
It's a great question. And I continue to ask myself. Because I would love to be able to say, I'm not going to be on social media. I would love to like kind of be off of it.
Hmm.
Um, because especially as an artist, I think a lot of people struggle with this, but I think as artists, we're especially sensitive and aware, at least on socials. I'm constantly aware of like who's writing with who and what opportunities is this artist getting versus me, and like, oh, I should be putting myself out there more, I should be writing more, I should be in the studio more, I should, like, you're constantly, or at least for me, the struggle is to constantly compare my journey to someone else's
And
because
it's
it's
the
just in
thief of
front of your
joy.
face. Yeah, and it's constantly in front of your face, and I get it. Like I'm not trying to be disparaging of social media. It is meant to like share what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like the
Hmm.
good things that you're doing. And it's kind of like a billboard for your ministry, for your life, for your brand, whatever it is. And so I get that. That's the nature of social media. But for me, as a human being, as Sarah Kroger, the sensitive artist, I do have to put myself I have to make some hard boundaries for myself. And I have experimented with different things, like only going on social media when I need to post, or because also the flip side of it is it's such a beautiful tool for connection. I've gotten to know people, even you. We
Yeah.
connected on socials originally, like just getting to talk with people in my DMs or in my comments and hear about how my songs are impacting their life, or coming to inviting them to come to a show or whatever. Like it's a powerful, beautiful tool of connection, but it can totally become just a toxic cesspool. So for me, I have to have this like balance of like recognizing how much I'm on it and trying to really maintain some serious boundaries. I don't have any problems with it's interesting because I don't have problems with Twitter. I deleted Twitter in 2020. I'm off. I'm gone. I never look back. I'm great with it. Facebook, I can post and leave it. TikTok, same way. It's not my app. Instagram is my kryptonite. It's my kryptonite. I don't know why. I just love it. And I could spend hours just looking up recipes, looking at designers, looking at all kinds of things. And so it's such a time suck. But I'm trying to learn how to be balanced with it and recognize, yes, it's a powerful tool of connection, but also it can totally make me spiral in a day. One thing, if I get on and I see one thing, it can set me on a whole other path. So learning yeah, how to be self-aware. Like there are some days where it's like, you know what, I probably shouldn't go on today because I'm feeling really sensitive or emotional or had a hard day. I probably just shouldn't go on. It's probably just going to make it worse, you know? And so like, having the self-awareness to kind of navigate that too is, I think, important.
So what are some of the fun distractions for you, that you feel like it's a healthy way to direct your time outside of music? What things do you enjoy?
Yeah, my husband and I enjoy watching shows at night to kind of decompress. And I also love to read.
Okay.
I'm a big bookworm. I got a Kindle a couple of years ago, and ever since I got my library card attached to it, I can get books all the time. I try to download as many as possible at one time, and then I put my Kindle on airplane mode so that the library doesn't take them back because I can have them on my Kindle for as long as I need them. That's a trick for Kindle Libby people.
I love that.
I love to read. I love to take walks in nature and kind of hikes and all that kind of stuff. When we're in Florida, we're Floridians, so
Okay.
we love going to Florida as much as possible and like being in the sunshine and being by the water is just my happy place. So as much as I can be by the water or out in nature, it's just so grounding for me. So those are the things I like to do for fun, for sure.
Oh, I love that. And speaking of books, you just announced that you're
Yeah.
releasing a book, Belovedness.
Yeah.
Talk about that. How did that come about?
Gosh. Well, this song, Belovedness, I released about 5 years ago. And it's kind of taken on a life of its own, to be honest, in a way that I didn't expect, just across the world. And even in the last few years, especially, it's had its own little belovedness moment. Again, in ways I didn't expect, it's just really connected with people. I'm really grateful for that. And so it has taken on a life of its own. And I kind of was just thinking, man, there's something here that's beyond just the song. And what would it look like if we could kind of dive into that? And so I started writing a lyrical devotional. It's basically just breaks down each of the lyrics in the song and the verses and in the chorus, and it has a reflection for each chapter and kind of leads you in a reflection and a journal kind of questions and scripture and all that. But going through the entire song, and so kind of more of a deep dive into the question of identity and what that looks like for each of us and how we own that, and the narratives that we spin and the negative narratives that we spin in our heads so often without stopping it, and how to like gain the tools to navigate that and free yourself from that. And so I know that there's no quick fixes in life. This book isn't like a quick fix. It's more of a, for me, the book that changed my life was Life of the Beloved by Henry Nouwen. It really opened the door to recognizing that I wasn't living out of my belovedness, that I was living out of lies and fears. And so this book is it's kind of like an extension of that for others, hopefully, to kind of lead them into a place where they have the tools that they need to navigate it, and navigate towards freedom and, yeah, owning their identity as beloved children of God. So that's my goal, at least, is that it can be a companion to people and kind of help them in their own journeys.
Well, it'd be exciting to hear about the reception from it and
Yeah.
what people's thoughts are on it. And that comes out May 6th, right?
May 6th. Yep.
And
May
where can
6th.
people find? Is it going to be on Amazon or
Yeah,
your
it's on
website?
Amazon
Or?
right now. You can
Oh,
pre-order
okay,
it.
great.
Yeah,
We'll
you
have
can
to direct
pre-order it
people
right now.
towards that.
Yeah, that would be
I love
awesome.
that.
I
So,
love it.
uh, with Belovedness and all of these wonderful songs that you've written,
Yeah.
the reception, like you mentioned, that people have, like it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
Have some of these songs, like people's reception, surprised you what they got from it? Have you had any
Mm.
interesting reactions, or is it like, this is what I put out there, this is what I intended, and the reception's what I received?
Yeah, I'm having to think about that. I think the thing that surprises me most is that people connect with it. Like I hate to say it like that, but that's kind of the truth. Like it or I mean, and because I've done a lot of identity work early on in my career, it's so interesting to look back on like when I first started writing and releasing songs. I was so not confident about it and so not confident around it and just felt like every time I would go and share music and do like a concert or something I'm talking like maybe the first 6 years of my career, 7 years of my career, I felt like a burden. Like I felt like, oh, if people are coming to this and they don't know my songs, like I want to get through this as quick as possible. It was like the most ridiculous mind frame to be in as an artist, like it was not a recipe for success. And then as I started doing this identity work, just recognizing, no, like God has given me inspiration in my life for a reason, and people are going to connect with it or they're not, and that's
Hmm.
okay. Like that's a beautiful thing. So the fact that people connect with it and resonate with it and write to me about it and share about it is like such a gift, like in and of itself. The fact that they're listening and using it in their life, like that was my dream, is to write songs that can be companions for people, whether they're driving home or listening while they're doing the dishes, or if they're really in a dark moment, that they can have like a little respite of light through a song of mine. Like that is such a gift and a humbling thing, and surprises me every time, truly, when someone says, I have used this song for this or for that or whatever. Like it's a gift. So I would say that.
I
But there
love
hasn't
that.
been anything where it's like, oh, this song means this to me. And I'm like, that is not what I wrote. That's not what I intended. So that's kind of nice. But
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good thing. That's a good thing. When you're sitting
maybe.
down and God's inspiring you, to write something, like what is the process? I feel like there's so many people who say, "Oh, I sat down and I wrote this song and it means this," but what is the actual writing process? Because I have a lot of students
Yeah.
who I want to go in and I want to go into a studio and write a song, and I
Yeah.
think there's a lot more that goes on than just say, yeah, I wrote down this song. Let's put some a melody to it and whatnot. Like, what's your
Yeah.
process?
Yeah. I think it's different every time. But every time it's like magical. Like
Mm,
it's a wonder to walk into a space with maybe just like the inklings of an idea and to walk out with a fully born brand new song. Like it
hmm
is magic every time. And it's like, to me, it's an encounter with the Holy Spirit. Some people call it the muse. For me, it's the Holy
mm.
Spirit. It's just like communing with the Holy Spirit. And for me, I've never written an entire song by myself.
hmm
And I'm okay with that. I love co-writing. I was convinced for the longest time that I wasn't a writer because I wasn't gifted in lyrics.
hmm
That's just not my natural tendency to write lyrics. I never wrote poetry. Like it wasn't like a thing that I did. I was more melodies. I heard melodies all day long, every day. I have my voice memos are full of them, just like ideas and little things that just pop into my head, and I'll write it down, or I'll be sitting at my piano practicing and some sound will like inspire something, and I'll get it in my voice memos and bring it into the next write. And so a lot of times it's like that kind of thing. Like
hmm
or if I'm reading something and a line stands out to me, or a lot of times it happens in church if I'm at mass and listening to the readings and some line sticks out to me. I'm like, that needs to be a song. I'll write it down in my note app. So I have all these little pieces, right? And then a lot of times I'll go into a space where there's other professional writers, people who do this day in and day out, uh, and know what they're doing. And we go in there and we have an idea. And oftentimes it just takes on, yeah, sometimes writing feels like you're wrestling it to the ground. And sometimes it literally feels like a download. Like my song Belovedness felt like a download from above. It felt like we were just ready for it and it just fell into our laps. And other songs have taken like months to finish. You know what I mean? So it just depends. It's all kind of part of the process. Just because the song comes easily doesn't mean that it's a great song. And so
Hmm.
just because sometimes a song takes forever to write and get tweaked and mess around, like doesn't mean that it's a bad song, you know? So you kind of have to like learn how to navigate the environment and learn, especially in co-writing. It's a very vulnerable and kind of mutually submissive process. Like sometimes someone's idea is going to win over yours, and sometimes your idea that you think is amazing is not right. It's not right for the moment. So you have to constantly be kind of like, yeah, submitting and humbling yourself in those spaces and recognizing like, okay, even if I really loved this idea and no one else did, I can always take that and do another thing with it, or it wasn't right for the song or the moment or whatever. And yeah, so it is like a humbling, vulnerable, beautiful, magical process, but it's definitely not what people think it is. It's not as easy as just like, I'm gonna write a song today and sitting down and just like it is like a puzzle. Like sometimes you're like, I need this word to rhyme with need, but it has to be two syllables and it can't be me because I just said me above it. It's a puzzle sometimes, and it's not fun sometimes for sure. So yeah, just learning how to surrender to that process is a very interesting thing. I'm
Well,
still
and
learning.
with a new reality, I think I read, is this correct that 70 different tracks
I wrote
or 70
70 plus
songs?
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you narrow it down to it was the first initial 10 and then you had five additional on the deluxe,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
That's why we
70
had a
songs.
deluxe.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I like these songs, right? Got to include them.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
hard. So there is what, 60 other songs or
Yeah.
something like that
Sitting
out there.
in sitting in
Yeah.
a Dropbox. Yeah.
And
That
just the
may
world
never
hasn't heard
see
the
the
light of
light of
day.
day.
That's crazy.
They might not. They might not. I feel like maybe some of them will, but they might not, which is a weird thing. Yeah. Because sometimes the song isn't meant for anyone else to hear. Sometimes it was just for you guys in the room and you're like super stoked about it, but it didn't fit with the rest of the theme of the project or whatever it is. It's a very interesting thing. Yeah. But also the thing is like when you write that many songs, then you get to choose what's the best. Like you
Mm,
almost need to write that many songs in order to have like the caliber of ones that you want to end up on a record. You have to kind of wade through that many, you know. Rep counts really do matter when it comes to songwriting and even performing. Like rep counts really do matter. So, I feel like I've grown so much as an artist just because of the sheer amount of events and concerts that I've been at. You know, I'm not who I am today, but or I would not be who I am today without that kind of
hmm.
history that's made me into who I am, both as a person, as an artist, so and performer and writer, all of the things.
And you've done a lot of performing around the world. And then last year you had a huge performance, the National Eucharistic Congress in
Yeah,
Indianapolis. How did that come about? There was a lot of great. I mean, Matt Maher, I think, was one of
yeah,
the artists there. I unfortunately didn't get to attend, but
yeah.
how was that experience compared to some of the other performances in the past that you've done?
It was really beautiful, special. I wish we had it every year.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was that special to me. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier. There's so many subcultures in the church, and little like, movements that happen and people who are devoted to those things. And it just felt like everyone was there, and all of these different aspects and subcultures were kind of represented, even liturgically. Like there was one of the nights for adoration, Floriani
Mm,
didn't perform, sorry. They were leading the music
hmm.
for adoration, and it was so stunning. And it was that. And then Matt and I led worship for the adoration the following night. And so it was like traditional chant one night and then contemporary praise one night. And there were several other musicians that were a part of it. It was just such a beautiful, yeah, expression of the church. And I think a lot of times, this is why I deleted Twitter several years ago. When you look online, it can feel like we're so divided as a American Catholic Church, at least, very
Hmm.
divisive and on all kinds of different. Um, I mean, in all the ways. I'm not going to say all the ways, but we're so divided, and that event felt like the exact opposite, and it made me question, like, are we actually divided? Because it feels like way more united than I realized.
Well, there was a lot of people there, 50,000 some
Yeah.
people all coming for this one,
Yeah.
this one chance to praise God.
Yeah. And pilgrimage together and
Mhm.
be with the Eucharist and with one another and celebrate like our church and what it is. It was really, really moving, and I still haven't been able to like fully put words around it or process it. It was just such a beautiful thing to be a part of, and yeah, and I hope that we do more of it because it really was edifying and made me excited and proud to be Catholic
Mhm.
all over again, And not that I wasn't, but there's just moments like that where it just kind of breaks through, and you're like, wow, this is an amazing, incredible thing to be a part of when you see it literally in front of your eyes. You're like, this isn't everyone, but it's a big representation of the church. So it just felt really, really moving and powerful.
So, what is your hope coming from that for Catholics and I guess non-Catholics too? Uh, what is your hope, I guess, for the future of how your music plays into their devotion towards God and their journey learning about God?
Hmm. I mean, my hope has always been the same that my music, you said it actually in my bio to begin with, because I forget that this is in my bio, but
Hmm.
it makes sense that it is because it's my heart. I just want to continually create safe spaces for people to encounter the love of God because when I was younger and encountered the love of God, it was through music for the first time, and it changed everything for me. And I continually just want to set the stage for God to do what only He can do, which is encounter people and change their lives. And that's kind of the goal, is to kind of continue to make music that's a soundtrack that people can have on in the background of their life, or when they need a moment to cry out to God, they can put on No Filter, or when they need a moment to remember that they are loved and beautiful and known and seen, that they can put on Belovedness, or like literally just whatever they're walking through, that they have a song that they can listen to that meets them in that moment and leads them closer and deeper into the heart of God and His love for them. That's my goal.
Amen. I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, we're coming to the end of our podcast, and
Yeah.
one thing I like to do with the guest is I do a 1 minute challenge of a
Oh
rapid
gosh.
fire of questions. So
Okay.
if you're ready for it, I'm going to put
I'm
my
down.
timer on. Let's do
I'm
this.
terrible at rapid fire questions because I always give context, but I'm going to try really hard to just answer. One answer. One
Okay,
one
we'll
word.
see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how many of these you get through. Okay, so
Okay.
here's the timer. You ready?
Great.
One
Yep.
minute. Okay. What is your favorite worship song you didn't write?
Right now, Waymaker.
Okay. Do you drink coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Go to Bible verse right now.
Be still and know that I am God.
Favorite snack before a show?
Ooh, I really love Lay's potato chips. Very good for the voice.
Top bucket list place to lead worship.
South Africa.
One word to describe a new reality.
Wonder.
Favorite liturgical season.
Oh, I think Advent. Advent.
Most unexpected musical influence.
Oh gosh. Dua Lipa.
Okay. And what is one dream artist to collaborate with?
Oh gosh. Carrie Job.
Carrie Job. And that was 1 minute, 1 second
There we
right
go.
there. That's
Okay,
pretty
there
good.
you
So we got, I
go.
think it was 9 questions. That's pretty good.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
That is
I'm not
funny.
competitive at all.
Yeah, we'll see how you stack up against the others. It's
Yeah.
been fun. Well, Sarah, I just want to thank you so much for spending time on the podcast today, talking about
Okay.
your background, your musical journey, your faith journey. I think your music really resonates with a lot of people. And so that's why I was so excited to have you on the podcast today. And just God
Yeah.
bless you and your ministry.
Thank you so much. It was great to chat with you. Had so
Yeah,
much fun.
thank you so much. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Sheckler Spotlight with your host, Harrison Sheckler. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show with a friend. New conversations drop regularly, so stay tuned. And thanks again for listening and being a part of the journey. Follow Harrison Sheckler on social media and visit harrisonsheckler.com to learn more.